Book Zeros. What you're about to hear has never been explained publicly. Pattern Interruptive Threes. In 2023, the top 1% added $10 trillion to their net worth, while 60% of Americans couldn't cover a $1,000 emergency. Pattern interruptiles. And the secret isn't their income or their investments, it's something your bank actively hides from you. Pattern interrupt 22s. Here's the twist. You already have the tool to unlock this, but they've designed it to keep you locked out. Hook end. I'm going to show you exactly how the banking system works, not the way they teach it in high school, but the way it actually operates. And by the end, you'll understand why the rich get richer while you're stuck paying interest. Let's start with a story. Joe is a 35-year-old engineer. He makes $150,000 a year. He has a mortgage, a car loan, and credit card debt. He's doing everything right, saving 15% of his income, investing in index funds. But here's what he doesn't realize. Every single month, he's paying the bank to use their money. His mortgage interest alone is $2,500 a month. His car loan is $400. His credit cards add up to another $300. That's $3,200 a month, $38,400 a year that he's paying the bank just for the privilege of borrowing. Now compare that to Jane. Jane makes the same salary, but she's been using a strategy called the infinite banking concept. She doesn't pay the bank interest, she collects it. How? She's created her own banking system using a specially designed whole life insurance policy. Here's the mechanism. Every time Jane needs to buy something, a car, a renovation, even a down payment on a house, she borrows from her own policy. The money she borrows is actually the cash value she's built up over years of premium payments. But here's the kicker. While she's borrowing, her cash value continues to grow as if she never touched it. She pays herself interest instead of the bank. Pattern interrupt. Let me explain with numbers. Jane puts $20,000 a year into her policy. After 10 years, she's contributed $200,000. But because of the way whole life insurance compounds, her cash value is now $280,000. She borrows $50,000 to buy a car at 5% interest, but that interest goes back to her policy. Meanwhile, her $280,000 base continues to earn 4% annually. Net result? She's earning 4% on $280,000, plus receiving 5% on the $50,000 she loaned to herself. That's an effective return on her borrowed money of 9%. Joe, on the other hand, puts the same $20,000 into a 401k. Cliffhanger. But here's where it gets interesting. Joe's 401k lost 18% in 2022. Jane's policy grew 4%, and when Joe needed $50,000 for a car, he had to sell investments at a loss and pay taxes. Jane borrowed from herself, paid no taxes, and kept her growth intact. The rich don't use banks the way you do. They use banks as tools, and they've created their own. The Federal Reserve, the largest banks, insurance companies, they all operate on the same principle: control the flow of money. You've been trained to think that saving is the only safe path. But the real secret is leverage, but leveraged in a way that doesn't destroy you. Pattern interrupt. Think about it like this. The bank takes your deposits and loans them out at 7% while paying you 0.5%. They're making money on the spread. The rich do the same thing, but they own the bank. They create their own spread. The infinite banking concept, popularized by economist Nelson Nash in his book, Becoming Your Own Banker, is essentially a legal way to become your own bank. You use a specially designed dividend-paying whole life insurance policy as your savings vehicle. But here's the catch. It has to be structured correctly, overfunded, with paid-up additions. Most agents won't tell you this because they're trained to sell term insurance or cheap whole life that barely grows. Cliffhanger. But here's what the banks don't want you to know. The policy's cash value grows tax-deferred. You can access it tax-free via policy loans. And when you die, the death benefit replaces the borrowed amount, tax-free. This is not a loophole. It's how the system was designed. Now, let's talk about the hidden costs. The rich don't just use insurance policies. They use family offices, private banking, and syndicated loans. But for the average person, the whole life policy is the most accessible version. Pattern interrupt. Here's a real-world example. Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, has repeatedly said he uses whole life insurance policies to store and grow his wealth. He doesn't trust banks. He doesn't trust the stock market. He trusts his own banking system. And in the 2008 crash, while everyone else was losing money, his policies kept growing. But let's address the elephant in the room. Whole life insurance has a bad reputation. Critics say it's expensive, has high fees, and low returns. And they're right. If you buy the wrong policy, the key is to buy a policy designed for cash accumulation, not death benefit. You want low internal costs, high dividends, and flexible premiums. Cliffhanger. But here's a misconception. This is not for everyone. If you can't consistently fund the policy for at least 10 years, you'll lose money. The rich can do this because they have excess cash flow. But if you have high-interest debt, you should pay that off first. The mechanism only works when you're not paying double-digit interest to someone else. Now, let me show you the math that changes everything. Pattern interrupt. Imagine two people, Alex and Ben. Alex puts $10,000 a year into a stock market index fund for 20 years. Over that period, the S&P returns an average of 8% annually. At the end, Alex has about $520,000, but in a down year, say year 5, the market drops 30%. Alex's portfolio drops to $70,000. He panics, sells, and locks in the loss. He's now behind. Ben puts $10,000 a year into a properly structured whole life policy. After 20 years, his cash value is around $350,000, lower than Alex's theoretical return. But here's the difference. Ben never loses money. His policy grows every single year, guaranteed. And when he needs money for a business opportunity or emergency, he borrows against it at 5%. He doesn't sell assets. He doesn't pay taxes. He keeps his money working. Cliffhanger. Now, what happens if the market crashes? Alex loses 30% in a year. Ben doesn't care. His policy is still growing. And when the market is low, Ben can borrow from his policy to buy stocks at a discount. He's using the bank's own strategy against them. Here's the final piece of the puzzle. The rich use this mechanism to create infinite returns. Pattern interrupt. Let's say Ben borrows $100,000 from his policy to buy a rental property. The property generates $10,000 a year in cash flow. Ben pays himself $5,000 in interest on the loan. So his total return is $15,000 on $100,000, 15%. But here's the kicker. His policy's cash value is still growing at 4% on the original amount. So his effective return on the borrowed money is 15% plus the 4% he would have earned anyway. That's 19% on that $100,000. And because he's borrowing from his policy, not selling assets, he pays no capital gains tax. The average person would have to earn 25% on a taxable investment to match that after tax. That's the secret. The rich don't pay taxes on growth because they never sell. They borrow against their assets and let them continue to grow. The banks hide this because if everyone did it, they'd lose their most profitable customers. Cliffhanger. But here's the reality. This strategy requires discipline, patience, and a certain level of financial stability. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a long-term wealth-building tool that works because it forces you to become your own bank. So what should you do? Start by educating yourself. Read Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash. Find an agent who specializes in designing policies for cash accumulation, not death benefit. And most importantly, don't try to do this if you're drowning in high-interest debt. Pay off debt first, then build your banking system. Pattern interrupt. The rich have known this for centuries. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, they all used insurance policies as their private banks. They didn't trust the public banking system. And they were right. The system is designed to extract wealth from the many and concentrate it at the top. But now you know the secret. The question is, what will you do with it? Cliffhanger. In the next video, I'll show you exactly how to structure a policy for maximum cash accumulation, step by step, with real numbers. But for now, like this video, subscribe and start thinking like the rich. Because the moment you become your own banker is the moment you stop working for money and start making money work for you. Thanks for watching.